Hi, Sitan Musolini, the Merchant of Success. Welcome to this segment on Rejection Management Mastery 2.0. You know, this is a subject that is dear to my heart because I've experienced rejection myself a couple of times. I remember being rejected when I was a child, when I went to a neighbor's place to watch TV, and this young man chased me away, saying, "No, get away from here." And because we were poor and we didn't have TV, it was hurtful. Then when I became a teenager around the age of 15, I went out to this 14-year-old beautiful girl and, made a move to see, to propose to her, to give her a life-changing proposal on her being my girlfriend. And she knocked me out. And that really crushed my social confidence. And that really impacted me for years, for more than 10 years, to a point even when I finished all the 3 years, even at the university, without any date. Not that the dates were not there, just that I was crushed. So I'd pretend like I'm not interested, but truthfully is I was interested, but feared to go through the same rejection I had gone through when I was around the age of 15. I remember at the age of about 28 or thereabouts, when I was a consultant, I also went through another rejection where it wasn't social this time, it was professional. I was part of a consulting team and this guy said, "You know what, I feel if I need to go deeper." That gave me a big check and it impacted me for about a year. It took me about a year to overcome that. The other one for social rejection took me over 10 years to overcome. So, and having dealt with many clients, I know this is a big issue. It's a big deal. Some of you have, it made so much sense to me because I also counsel and coach people on a one-to-one basis. They come to me. So I know that this is a real subject, a real topic. Okay. Arthur says, ouch. Okay. All right. So, there are 5 segments I go through: clarity, mindset, strategies, skill sets, and mastery. And at each segment, I stop in between to ask, is it clear? Does it make sense? If it makes sense, please type, let me know, say clear or yes, or just letter C or letter Y. And then if it doesn't, just be specific on what doesn't make sense. All right, these are the 5 core segments, and we are kicking off with the first one, clarity. And the clarity, we're talking about the what and why. The rejection. You see that we feel rejected when we are not included, accepted, or approved of. So for me, it was really mainly around acceptance or being approved. It could be a business proposal that was rejected. It could be that a family throws you out. As a matter of fact, yeah, I've remembered there was another big one for me. When I changed my faith, my family members threw me out. And that really took me some years. Then it could be that you're denied a job opportunity. Okay. So all those are forms of rejections. Here are some facts. Studies show that an experience of rejection and an experience of physical pain can both activate the same areas of the brain. So meaning the rejection is painful because the same place in the brain, which is activated by pain, is the same, sometimes same place that rejection is triggered. So it's pain. You really can feel an actual pain in your heart when you go through rejection. Number 2 is that rejection destabilizes our need to belong. So we all have a need to belong. And I will tell you sometimes, and this is ingrained in us, it seems to be part of our DNA to belong, to communicate. My daughter recently, who is 3.5, did something to my 7-year-old. And my 7 said, "No, go away, I don't want you here." And she really cried. because they really love each other. So she came crying, oh, she said that she doesn't want to be with me. So it was, she wants to belong. And that's ingrained in us, even though even as adults, we may not cry like my 3.5-year-old. It's just that we are crying silently when we don't belong. Number 3 is that we can relive and re-experience social pain more vividly than physical pain. So you go through all the stories, what you felt, the context, the situation, what was going on, you can truly relive all that. So why is this skill important, or rejection management? You see, rejection is part of our lives. Yeah. At one time, it happens at some point. I do not know of anyone who has never been rejected or not approved of. It happens. It's part of life. So when you know that, then it might as well be that you master or learn how to manage rejection. Because at any one time, if it has never, well, I'm sure all of us, it has ever happened to us anyway. So since it's part of life, you might as well learn how to do it, to live with it, or at least manage it. Because if you don't, then you're going to go through so much pain. Number 2 is, if well handled, it can be a springboard. You can go to another level. So for me, even though it took me over 10 years or so, it gave me wisdom, it gave me an experience, it has made me more empathetic. It has made me a better coach, a better advisor, a better counselor when I meet with people. So, when I hear stories, I'm like, yeah, I've gone through that. So let's see how we can handle this. So I know they kind of say, come on, that's a small thing. Don't worry about it. No, it gave me a springboard to become a better advisor and coach and trainer. Also, if mismanaged, it can ruin you forever. Oh, Lord. I've heard of many stories. Some people have even committed suicide because of rejection, because it was not properly managed. So it can be that painful. People have lost direction in their career. People have lost their social confidence. It can be costly. Therefore, hence, the more reason why you should master this. The point is, if not managed, it can really be extremely challenging, because you can imagine, for me, from the age of 15 up to the age of about 25 or 26, I wasn't, I had switched off my mind around dating. I just imagined that ladies would not like me. And you can imagine, if I had not managed that, I wouldn't be having a wife, I wouldn't be having daughters. Luckily, I overcame it. And here I am, able to talk about this subject matter. Okay. Now, let's go to the mindsets for managing rejection. The first mindset is to think that I did what I had to do. Right? Now, I will read Gimei's message towards the end. Interesting message. One of the mindsets is I did what I had to do. So meaning at that moment, so rather than, oh, I wish I had known. No, you did what you had to do. Do I regret me going to that beautiful lady then, even though I was rejected? Of course, then I was regretting it, but looking back, no, I did what I had to do. So of course, I wish someone had given me these tricks and techniques. So when you think that I did what I had to do, now looking back, it may be, now let me give you the psychological value in this. Now, looking back, knowing what you know now may look like a foolish idea then. But the truth is, that's what you knew then. You did what you had to do based on what you knew then, based on your levels of consciousness, based on your skill sets, based on your mindsets, based on your abilities. You did what you had to do, given the context and all these reasons that you may come up with. So that's a very, very healthy mindset, because this stops you from getting into the energy of regret, because it's one thing being rejected, it's another thing being in a state of regret. That double negative energy will be very challenging. So when you say, I did what I had to do, know that it takes away the rejection. It takes away at least rejection is a pathway for better things to come. Yes, I'm a better person because of those rejections I've gone through. Because then they have forced me to reflect, to think, to work on myself, to do some healing work, to do some psychological work, to do study, to do research, to seek out for coaching and mentoring. And as a result, I'm a better person, and in the process have attracted better opportunities. So you can look at it that way. It's always very, very healthy. The third mindset, which is very important, is that rejection is not a measure of who we are. Rejection is not a measure of who you are. Not at all. So the way to psych yourself up, to change your mindset up, is to say, you know what? They said no to the idea. Someone said no to the proposal. Someone said no to your sales proposal. Someone said no to your idea of befriending them, using my case as an example. They did not define you. That does not define you. They said no to the proposal, to the idea, to the concept, to the product, to the service. They did not reject you. Once you do that, then it keeps your psyche intact. Number 4, rejection is a sign that you're pushing the limits. Because if you don't ask, no one is going to say no. When you ask, that's why there is a possibility of either a yes, an acceptance, or a rejection. So when you're rejected, it means you're doing something, you're pushing. I remember many years, I remember when I was around the age of 17, I had this guy say, you know what? When you make a mistake, it means you're doing something. And that really stuck with me. That really stuck with me. Because if you do nothing, you won't make a mistake. If you make a mistake, that's a sign that you're doing something. The same way, if we use the same thought process, if you're rejected, it means you're doing something. You're asking for something, you're pushing for something, you're pushing for something. And that's where the growth is anyway. So it's a good sign. Look at it that way. Got rejected? Well, that means at least I did something. The other mindset is the growth mindset, which I keep preaching about. I keep talking about it over and over again. Growth mindset, you learn, you evolve, you change. So that, you learn from it. You evolve from it. Do you know that even in that state, when I told you when I was at Makerere University, it has some of the most beautiful ladies you ever find. And I never dated because, again, I would imagine that I didn't want to go through the pain of rejection that I'd gone through when I was 15. So I recall very vividly, I was walking and there was this girl in front of me and she dropped her identity card. I said, oh, sorry, you've dropped your identity card. And then she said, "Oh, you're so kind." And she looked at me with such very kind eyes and all that. Later, when I grew up, I was like, you know what? This lady was looking for an excuse to talk to me. But I didn't have a clue. But at least I learned then from that experience. So I became more alert as I grew older. So the point I'm making is sometimes, not sometimes, usually or typically, you can look at that rejection as an opportunity to learn from it, to evolve from it, to change from it, to expand from it, to become wiser from it. And then you become a teacher out of it. Growth mindset, very, very healthy mindset to take. You know, someone has just typed in the chat box that 2 and 5 are not easy to take. Guess what? It depends on how you choose to look at it. That whether you think you can or cannot, either way, you're right. I believe that was said by Henry Ford. In Luganda, there is a saying, that the tongue creates. So if you verbalize it, the Bible says, well, as a man thinketh, so is he. So if you think it that way, then it's going to be. So I'm inviting you to liberate yourself from that idea of it is not easy or hard to take to, you know what? Let me give it a go. I'm curious how life will be different if I chose to practice it. I wonder what sort of pleasant surprises I'm going to experience if I engage this, right? So that's the mindset. I will play with it. Look at it as a game, not as a war, not as a fight. And if you cannot prophesy something positive, at least find another creative way to prophesy something. What I mean by that is if you, rather than say, for me, people always reject me. Oh, it's hard it's hard when people reject me. Say, you know what? I'm looking for ways on how I can find a better landing or how I can still feel better about myself when I'm rejected. You see, I'm finding ways. I'm finding ways is progressive. I'm going to work on how I can feel better about myself even when I'm rejected. I'm not saying that you lie, that when people reject me, it's okay. No, in your world, it's not yet okay. At least in my world, it's okay now because I've done a lot of work on myself. But all I'm saying is if you're in a place where you find these things are challenging, you know what? I choose to figure out ways on how to manage rejection better. See, that's much better than saying, those things are hard for me. Then once you say those things are hard for me, then it's going to be hard. Okay, so declare something better. Now, let's talk about 4 core strategies for managing rejection. The first strategy is the inner loop strategy. In other words, pay attention to what you're telling yourself. Are you blaming yourself? Are you taking it personal? Are you bitter you tried? When we say pay attention to what you're telling yourself, especially the stories, one of the things I learned the last few years is the power of the stories we tell ourselves. When I'm coaching or advising my private coaching clients or counseling them or advising them, I tell them, it's not what people say that hurts the most. It's what you say to yourself. Because remember, you are with you 24/7. Someone will say something to you and they go away. But you say something to yourself and you are with you. And then you keep repeating it over and over. You regurgitate it over and over. Think about it, you reflect on it over and over again. And I'm telling you, it can be costly. So pay attention to what you're telling yourself. Some of you have heard me quote the famous African proverb, which is one of my favorite proverbs, but I'll say it again for some of us who are new here, this platform. And that is, if there is no enemy within, the enemy out there will do you no harm. So the enemy is especially the negative language we tell ourselves, the negative stories we tell ourselves, the negative conclusions we make against ourselves, the negative prophecies like what I was commenting about earlier. You make negative declarations about the present and the future. That's the biggest enemy. So pay attention to what is going on around here. And the older I get, and the wiser I get, the more I pay attention to what's going on. I was talking to someone earlier today on phone, who is also a client, said, you know, whenever I'm doing this, then this happened, you know, something negative. I don't want to mention. I said, listen to your language. You're prophesying that. What are you prophesying? Change that. So this notion of what you're telling, what you're blaming, you know, you have to pay attention to what you're telling yourself in the moment. If it's not positive, if it's not encouraging, recreate it, reframe it. You know, well, for example, I've had moments whereby I talk to someone and they don't even respond. I greet someone and say, hello, and they don't respond. Of course, that's like 0.00 something percent of the time. But when, you know, before it used to bother me. And then now I tell them, well, okay, that's okay. At least I said hello, I did the right thing. And then I also tell myself, oh, you know, they could be going through something. They could have had a bad day. You see, that's a totally different dynamic. Before I would be like, okay, can you imagine? She could not even respond to me to say hello again. Why are they rejecting me? What was wrong? Was it because of how I was dressed? Was it because, no. Inner talk. The second strategy is building internal strength. Create a backup. Remember your strength. Learn from your mistakes. Push yourself. Face your fears. You build the inner resources, the inner strength to stand tall, to stand strong. Say, you know what, moving forward, I choose to weather the storms. And part of that could be doing affirmations in the morning and before you go to sleep, reading books to work on yourself, having coaches, being part of masterminds that make you feel better, where you can access advice from your colleagues or from a coach. I have two masterminds I'm running, for example. One is called Succeeding Daily Mastermind, and the other one is called Executive Communication Mastermind. So that's where people meet and they strengthen each other and learn from each other's successes and failures, but they keep getting better. And at an individual level, what are you listening to? Listen to CDs, DVDs, or programs online, and you know, just make yourself strong. Next, self-compassion strategy. Continue falling in love with you. Forgive yourself. Be kind to you. This I can't emphasize enough. Someone may hate you. That doesn't take away your capacity to love yourself. Someone may be harsh to you. That does not take away your capacity to be kind to you. Someone may say, I will never forgive you for this big mistake you made. That does not take away your capacity to forgive you. Be compassionate to yourself. The challenge is we go around seeking for love, seeking for forgiveness, seeking for kindness from out there. And when we don't get it, then it hurts us even more. And I'm here to propose to you, be kind to you, my friend. Forgive yourself. That's all you could do then, based on what you knew then. Remember to love yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I love you. I still make lots of mistakes, yet I consider myself to be super smart. Of course, lesser mistakes than what I used to do, say 10 years ago. But I look at myself and say, Ethan, I forgive you. Ethan, it's okay. Next time you'll be cool. I know next time you'll do better, Ethan. Ethan, I still love you. And you have to talk to yourself like that. Because there's no guarantee that someone else is going to do that. Very few people do that. Even those who have the capacity to do that Few have the courage to look at you in their eyes and say it because they don't know how you're going to receive it. Some just wish you these things, but they don't tell you. But you know what? You sleep with yourself every night. You're with yourself 24/7. So you have a special opportunity to be compassionate to yourself. Be your best psychologist and coach. Count your blessings. Yes. There's a lot going on in your life. Pay attention to it. There's a lot of good happening in your life. Pay attention to it. Today I had juice this afternoon. Thank you. I typically have juice at night. Got juice now. Let me take it. Thank you, Lord. Juice, real juice. I shouldn't take it. You know, sometimes I forget to do that. Do you know there are many people who have, there are millions and possibly billions who don't have access to juice right now. They are having it right now. Some of us are even attending live right now, or you're watching the recording and you may not have the juice right now. But you know what? It's very easy. And sometimes, many times I forget to say thank you. Many times I forget to say thank you for this juice. I forget. So as I'm reminding you, I'm also teaching myself. But it's a gift. It's a blessing from the Lord. Count your blessings, not just your bashes and rejections. There's a lot going on in your life. You can understand me when I'm speaking to you. Means you have ears you can hear. If you're not able to see properly, at least you can hear. There are many people out there who cannot see and they can't hear. Think about that. Count your blessings one by one, just like the song we start with for every session. You know, of course, it's not recorded, but those of us who come early, you know that. People like Favored, they come in very early, they watch that song, they listen to that song. You get reminded, count your blessings one by one. Then you feel better. Even when you're rejected, you start counting the blessings. When you feel, so when you're rejected here, count all these blessings where people said yes. When someone says no to you, just remember all the yeses you've received. The fact that you're here, you've received so many yeses from the time you were born. Do you know that there are children who didn't make it to planet Earth because someone said no to them? But the fact that you're here, it means you've received so many yeses along the way to be here. Someone said yes to you to go for education. Someone said yes to you to, someone said yes to you to attend this class or to watch this recording. They are blessings. But it's so easy to get lost into that one rejection. Even if there are 10 rejections, I guarantee you for every one rejection, there are hundreds of yeses. There are hundreds of blessings. Meaning for every 10 rejections, you have thousands of yeses. But it is so easy. And I sometimes catch myself in that energy of paying attention to only where it's been painful. Count your blessings. When you look around you, you'll see the blessings. Let me ask you, just before I'm going to ask you to do something, but Favored says both the appetite and the provision are a miracle. You can have the good food, but no appetite to enjoy it. Yes, yes. Because there are people who have all the money, but not the appetite, not the good health to enjoy the money that they have, not the food that they have. Edwin says many times, you are right, many times we choose to focus on the bad and not the good that has happened to us. Absolutely, Edwin. Please go ahead, type in the chat box, at least the one blessing you have that you're grateful for today. Just go ahead, type in the chat box. Let this chat box blow up. Yes, every minute you have a reason to thank God for. Ravi says life, have a job. Betty says have a job. Favored, I'm grateful for the gift of life. Katie, life. Daphne, family. Faith, job. Hey, type. Grace family. Please go ahead. Type. Let's express gratitude to the Lord. People across sometimes they're hearing, they're like, what's going on there? Yes. Let me see who else here. Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, if you're watching the recording, please pause this recording and write what you're grateful for. I'm seeing great family, Athaire, family, parents, siblings, patience, life, job, marriage, Mwima, health, life, OLABC, grateful gift of life and family, Daphne being here learning, great. Olivier, friends and life, Jatria, provision, Becky, life and provision, life, family, love. At this point, I'm grateful for Ethan's free lessons. Thank you, Nancy. They have spoken much into my life and probably someone else here. Great. Nathan, opportunities and perfect health. Athaire, salvation. Benedict, life, job, family. Sarah Bug, I'm grateful for my mother. Great. Listening to this session, I needed it. Great. By the way, I like that part that you needed this session. You're here by no accident. Trust me, either you're supposed to pick something from me right now, or someone from the, you pick something from the chat box, what people are writing, or what you've heard me say in the chat box. I'm sure it has reminded you. I'm sure some of us have been reminded of certain things you need to be grateful for by just from the chat. So you're not here by accident, whether you're attending live or watching the recording, there is a reason why you're here right now, trust me. Sarah says, life, great family, free sessions, health and job. Josephine, grateful for the serenity prayer, it changed my life. Yes, family and opportunity for this counseling. Yes, Katie, I agree, I'm not here by accident. Yes, yes, great, all right. Like, yes, Josephine, people would like you to share your strategy. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ethan. So my strategy when I'm faced with rejection and I'm failing to shake it off, even after counting my blessings, I go to the Bakateyamba's home in Nalukolongo and just visit those people.
For purposes of people who don't know what Bakateyamba means, please break it down in English, because we have a multi-dimensional community tuning in live, and those who will be tuning, who will be just accessing the recording may not understand that word. Please go ahead and break it down in English.
Okay, Bakateyamba is loosely translated as those who can't help themselves. Yeah, it's a home where people who are rejected in society, the elderly, those who were born crippled, Catholic nuns look after them, let me say, yeah. So in that home, sometimes people go there and make donations. So what I do when I'm feeling rejected or I'm failing to shake off the rejection, I just go with a few things just to see them. The look on their faces for presenting just a loaf of bread is enough to make you cry. And you will remember all the good things you have, the hands you have. There are people without hands, people who can't even feed themselves, like it is bad. So just taking a walk, just one room, visiting one person is enough to really make you snap out of it. So that's my strategy.
Wow, that's a powerful strategy, and I choose not to add anything. Well put. Thank you so much, Josephine, for sharing that. Much appreciated. Yeah, it's a powerful strategy indeed. Then you later discover how blessed you are indeed. So that's the frame. That's what I'm learning from you, Josephine, what you just shared. Great. And thank you for Grace. Thank you, Grace, for, pushing Josephine to share with us that powerful strategy. All right, let's talk about the skill set. A six-step model for managing rejection. Just a second. So number one, identify what you're hurting from and come to terms with it. Because it's not just about you denying or pretending that something is not there. It's you to acknowledge what is and come to terms with it. That's step one. It is what it is. Okay. And I know last time Dorothy gave us, let me just pause just a second. Yeah, so once you come to terms with something, then you can comfortably and ably deal with it rather than pretending as if it's not there. Okay. Step two is involve your positive circle. Spend time with those who love you. There's that moment whereby you just feel when things are really tight, or tight is just slang. When things are really challenging, those moments where you just want to be around some positive energy. People whom you know really will appreciate you, they won't judge you, they will just be with you. So there are those moments. So the second step is, if you have such people in your circles, and if you don't have, start building such a circle. Involve I'm sure you have, or at least you have one person you can engage with, because then you need to raise your vibration up. You need someone who can get you out of the funk and feel better, think better. And that's always a good, fantastic step to get into. And then 3 is fill up your time with activities that give you meaning, something that makes you feel better. And like what Josephine was mentioning earlier, that's something that has meaning to her. So find something that has meaning for you. So part of, for me, something that has meaning apart from family, it is this work. Okay. But from family, this is it. I have my two biggest passions, it's family and this work that I'm doing. So if I'm a little down, if I get here and share something and I feel alive, I feel much better about myself, because then I am doing something that has meaning. And I'm not talking about only when there's rejection. I'm saying, there are those moments when I'm not feeling at my very best. But when I do something like this, I get uplifted. And that's what it is. For example, yesterday, you may not know, but yesterday I was really not feeling myself. I wasn't feeling well. But then you couldn't tell, most likely you couldn't tell that I was not well. Why? Because the moment I get on screen and I start talking to you or face to people, life flows through me and I feel healed, literally. I feel energized, and mind you, so I did that and I had to immediately go into another session. So I did 3 hours non-stop. Then I had another 30 minutes of consultation with one of the mastermind members who needed advice, because that's part of what I also do. Apart from the group mastermind, you're part of the mastermind member group, I beg your pardon, if there's something private where you need advice, then you access it. So meaning I worked for 3.5 hours non-stop. Why? Because I was doing something that has meaning for me. So meaning, something that has meaning for you, it makes a big difference. The other strategy, the other key next step, I beg your pardon, is be patient with yourself. This is a wave that will go. It is what it is. It is a wave. Waves come and go. They go to the shores and they flow back. They come to the shores. And what has come to you will go back to wherever it came from, and God will take care of it. The other, one of the teachers I've been learning from also, has this statement of, I release this to you, God, with unconditional love. Okay. Meaning you release whatever you're feeling in the moment, that negative energy you're feeling in the moment. God can take care of it. Say, God, I release this to you with unconditional love. You release it to God. God, I release this to you with unconditional love. Then you have to go take care of it, because God will sort it out. God will transmute it and turn it into love. So that's the other trick, by the way, which I had not mentioned here, but that's an extra tip for you. 5 is self-care. Practice it several or many times. Give yourself a treat. Give yourself a treat. Giving yourself a treat is saying yes to you. Like say yes. You're saying yes to yourself. Saying yes, I love you. You're saying yes, I care for you. Yes, I value you. So you're saying yes to you. And that self-care can mean different things. I typically like it when I find a lady in a salon, someone is working on the nails, the fingers, someone else is working on the feet, and someone else is working on the hair or doing backman. Someone doing the hair, someone doing the fingernail, someone doing the feet and massaging the legs. I'm like, yay! Of course, I never shout like that, but in my soul, I'm like, yeah, self-care, baby. Yes, take care of yourself. Say yes to you. And finally, in case all this doesn't work out, involve a third party. A third party might mean a psychotherapist, it might mean a counselor, it might mean a coach, or getting a private advisor, whatever it is. If you have a coach like me, then of course I can always support you. The key thing is that those moments where you just need a third party. But if you do this, then it will help you tremendously in terms of at least minimizing the impact. Sometimes you may not have the skill sets or abilities to wipe it out completely, but at least you will experience much, much better. And you feel so much better about yourself, okay? Just a second. So definitely the other thing that I find to be very powerful is the serenity prayer. And for the serenity prayer, let me first share with you this, and then we'll go to the serenity prayer. Some of the long-term solutions. Here are some long-term solutions that would be very useful for you. Number one is build your self-esteem, so that you love and appreciate yourself regardless. Because sometimes the rejection, people attach it to who they are, to the value that they have inside themselves. And I'm here to propose to you that your self-esteem is something that is eternal, that is something that is solid, that once you build it, just again, Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. So if someone rejects you, there's no need to feel inferior. You are who you are. You are still special until or unless you give them that permission. So I'm giving you permission to have that solid self-esteem. Build it. Keep building it. Number two is sometimes it helps lower your expectations a bit. What I mean by that is what I mean by that is rather than just expecting a yes no matter what, it's okay to say, you know what, it could be a yes, it could be a no. So then that way, in case there is a no, then it's not being negative, it's just being open to whatever happens. So I should say, rather than lower your expectations, actually, let me give you something better. Just a second, because I've remembered something which would be even better. An even better way to frame it, rather than say lower expectations, is do not be attached to outcomes. What do I mean? So if you are so attached to someone saying yes, and they say no, then you get crushed. But if you're not attached when you ask for something and you're not so attached as to whether they say yes or no, then you're going to manage it much better. But the crushing or the feeling so bad is because there's this expectation that we have and we are so attached to it. So when it doesn't happen, then you're like, what? But when you just go, you ask, you're like, okay, whatever comes up, cool. So that's a fantastic way to build yourself. And this works across all domains, not just the issue of rejection. It works across all domains. Number three is backup of a backup. So if all you're counting on is this one job opportunity, then it means if you receive a no, you're going to be fully, seriously crushed. But if you have if you've applied to hundreds of places and you're hopeful, then you'll be able to manage that. If in sales, you're counting on this one client. So when they say no, you'll be seriously crushed. But if you have other leads or potential sales in the offing, then the rejection won't be hit you so hard because you have backup options. The other one is leave room for surprises, meaning you're there, but you're open for surprises. Okay, that's surprising, but it's okay because you are open to the surprises, right? And of course, the serenity prayer, one of my favorite prayers ever. Only that this one is a little longer than the typical one you see on them that I'd gotten exposed to until Dorothy Opani introduced me to this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, taking this world as it is and not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. I really love this. I was only used to this, to the serenity prayer, stopping up to the wisdom to know the difference right there. But I really love this other second segment, at least I didn't know it myself. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, taking this world as it is and not as I would have it. Because when you have the rejection, it's because you feel bad. It's because you wanted the world to be in a certain way. But once you take the world as it is now, not as you'd have wanted it to be, then the blow will be much, much lighter. Trusting that you'll make all things right if I surrender to your will. Because how do you know that that is actually God's will for you to receive a no? Because God knows that if you get a yes, you are not ready for that opportunity. I was sharing with one of the mastermind members who said, look, there's this other opportunity I missed, and I felt so bad about it. But now I know if I'm given that opportunity now, I know I am ready. I've learned a lot, including what I've learned from these mastermind sessions. And I know for this next opportunity, I'm now much, much ready. So I'm a much better person and a much better leader. So sometimes just God's will that it is what it is. So, and I also like that part of living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time. So take it one day at a time and find a way to enjoy one moment at a time. Powerful, powerful prayer that can really help you and I to deal with rejection in a much better way. Concerning mastery, you need to identify a time when you faced rejection and use the 6-step model to manage it. And when I say 6-step model, it is right here. Yeah, this is it. This is what you go through. Okay. And in future, in case something happens, this is the model you are going to use that I would encourage you to use. Great. So in terms of someone was asking about explaining about leave room for surprises. So meaning, you see, when you're pursuing something, again, it's somehow linked to don't be attached to outcomes, somehow related, very related actually, as I'm thinking about it. When you are so attached to, when you're going for something, there's an ideal image that you have in your head. Say, this is how I want this sales process to go, this is how I want this training to go. And then when you leave room for surprises, means if something surprising happens, you're not shocked because already you had mentally prepared yourself for potential surprises. And that surprise could be exciting, it could be challenging. Either way, it's a surprise. So that's what I mean. So you've mentally prepared yourself. You've pre-paved the way for whatever pops up, and that popping up might happen. Meaning it may not go exactly as you envisioned, but there could be some surprises along the way. So then if they happen, you're not shocked, you're not thrown off balance. That's what I meant. So remember to reflect on this. What did you find most useful in this presentation, and how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business? Right. But there's a powerful question here that some humans are good at extending rejection. How do you deal with this infection bit? And meaning they make other people reject you by bad mouthing, meaning they reject you and then they go ahead, poisoning other people's perception of you, so that it's also negative. Now, that's a big one. And I will say this. There are a couple of things. Number one, the techniques we've mentioned before, they still apply. So you need to still appreciate yourself, love yourself. And the other thing also, I also believe if someone, for example, is at the workplace, it's also healthy, in my view, apart from these psychosocial techniques I've shared with you, it is absolutely in order to go and talk to that person and say, look, it's one thing you saying this to me or feeling this about me, and I would really encourage you to let other people make their own conclusions, because what's the benefit of you bad mouthing me amongst others? And I would even not in a harsh confrontational way. I would say, okay, please help me, and can I have 3 minutes, 5 minutes of your time? That is, of course, if there is that room, because I also know of relationships where people can't even look at each other eye to eye. But if there is that opportunity where you can engage a person, say, can I have 5 minutes of your time? Say, yeah, say, okay, cool. I'm just curious, what is it that you're aiming to benefit by you bad mouthing me amongst the rest of the team? Just get that perspective, because sometimes these people say all those things, they don't know that you know. They might think that they are being sneaky and all that sort of stuff. So you just need to stop them in their tracks at a psychological level by, number one, asking what is their motivation, and then number two, and tell them, look, I would really encourage you to, if you have this perception of me, that's what it is. And number two, it's not helpful to these people and to myself because it's really very hurtful. I'm not even able to concentrate to work and all this. Of course, if the relationship is so bad that they really want you out, that may not work. So you can find a line that is useful. So if someone still wants you out, say, look, ultimately, I'm also human like you are. So for you to go around bad mouthing me, you know the emotional and psychological impact that has. So, we are all here in this organization. It is a temporal assignment, but ultimately we are all human beings. You imagine, you put yourself in my shoes. If you're in my shoes and someone is bad mouthing you after all this rejection, whatever has gone on, how would you feel? How would that impact you? So you engage the person. Then number two, the person may be saying things which are not accurate about you. So your job is not to necessarily defend yourself verbally. It is to defend yourself based on action. And number two, I also wouldn't, I don't know whatever number it is. The other thing is, please do not fall into their trap. Also start bad mouthing them. No, just face them, talk to them. Don't say negative things about them amongst your colleagues. Because in that way, you are up-leveling, you're upgrading, you're showing your colleagues that you are above the noise, above the fight, so to speak. Because I'll tell you something, if you're really a good person and you're a great employee, you're a great performer, people are not stupid, they are very smart. People will know if this guy or woman has a personal vendetta against you. And you also want to make sure that if you're going down, you go down fighting. And fighting does not mean fighting back. Fighting in my world means performing, doing your very best. Of course, it can be challenging at a psychological and emotional level, but you do your best. You use these techniques to keep yourself positive, remind yourself what you're there for, listen to music that keeps you in a positive state, keep reminding yourself of who you are and what you are as a person or as an individual. And then you can keep going so that you show your best self, okay? Hamza says, you've really answered my queries about rejection. How do I get that energy of telling people off more, especially those who are senior than me. Again, let's remember this word, tell people off. Telling people off, it's like, man, get out of here, that sort of mindset. So Hamza, I've remembered you actually have access to the recordings. Go check out the recording on giving and receiving feedback. So you can give feedback to your superiors. Again, the difference though is you have to use language that is respectful, but tell them what you're feeling in the moment and tell them what you'd prefer to see happen. Again, you ask them what's motivating them, give them the feedback, keep the language firm, look at them in the eye, don't shy away, look at them in the eye. You have every right to express yourself. Because the truth is, there are some people who do all these painful things and they have no idea the impact it has on you until you bring it to their attention. So Olivier, just let me know if the answer I gave you is helpful or not.